Welcome to the 992.1 GTS review. This is not the hybrid system that the new one has been released, which has 540 horsepower. This one only, I know, has a 3-liter twin-turbo 473 horsepower engine. This is our best spot in Middle Tennessee to do a safe run out. We got farms on both sides of us. We're in Sport Plus mode. I got Jeff mic'd up with me. We're gonna do a launch for you guys. In order to do a launch, you have to be in Sport Plus mode. You have to hit this little TC button off here on the right, which you can see. Put your foot on the brake, go ahead and full throttle, and that'll initiate launch control. And we're gonna show you to probably about 120, and then we'll back off. You ready for this? Wow. Jesus. Get the hell out of here, man. Damn, bro.
There it was.
That's spicy. Wow. With that exhaust, man, I hope that comes through on camera for you guys, how loud and visceral that is. That is not something you're gonna do very often in this car because you're gonna have a lot of room to run. As you see, you get up to 100 really, really fast. Man, that's an incredible experience. So this is gonna be a comprehensive review of this car, guys. We're gonna talk about the spec, the configuration that he did. We're gonna talk about the allocation, the difficulty of getting one of these during COVID and all of that. We're gonna talk about the value proposition between this and other cars in the model lineup. So stick around, this is gonna be a good one. Appreciate you watching. PDLS headlights, looking good. Aero kit, love it. Let's do this. Welcome back to Driven Productions. My name's Adam, thankful to have you over at the channel. Today we are talking about one of my all-time favorite brands, and that is Porsche, and specifically this beautiful silver 992.1 Carrera GTS. Okay, now this is one of the best cars that Porsche makes. It sits right between the S and the GT3 in the lineup. It's not a cheap car, guys. As this car sits, it's almost $190,000. And frankly, if you go on the configurator and you want to get a 992.2, it's $220,000 almost at a spec like this. So these things are really exotic car territory now. Now, if you clicked on this thumbnail, you're probably looking to purchase one of these. So we're gonna bring on Jeff, the owner. He's gonna give you a rundown of his experience with the car, the spec, his personal thoughts about it on the track, on the street. You know, does he have any regrets on the color or anything else, you know, as far as this between a GT3 and other things that he was considering. Because guys, this is a big purchase. This is a lot of car, right? And so, you know, you're putting this kind of money into something. So hopefully this helps you make an informed buying decision. The part about this car, in my opinion, is it has 420 foot-pounds of torque from only 2,300 RPMs. So basically, everywhere you are in the rev band, you've just got so much set you back in your seat performance from all the torque that the twin turbocharged engine provides. That's something the 3.8 liter never did. If you were below 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs, there was nobody home. And if you do get a GT3, I'm telling you, you're gonna have a little bit of blue balls driving that car because it takes so much momentum to get past 5,000, 6,000 RPMs. Unless you're redlining first or second gear all the time, you really never get to experience that sing of 85, 9,000 RPMs very often because by that point, you're going so damn fast on the street. It's great on the track though, don't get me wrong. So if you do take your GT3 to the track, it's a whole different experience. But this car, all day, usable power, usable torque, sounds great. So hopefully you enjoy the content. Let's bring Jeff on camera, start getting into the questions. Appreciate you watching. If you enjoy the content, subscribe. We're this close to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube and I need your help to get there. So let's get into the next clip. Jeff, welcome to the HQ.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I appreciate it.
We've been trying to plan this thing for how long now?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute, man.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful you came over today and got to experience this incredible machine. So, you know, first question is, what attracted you specifically to Porsche? You know, I know you came from a BMW background, but then also like why the GTS versus some of the other models in the lineup? You want to start there?
Yeah, I think for me, was a BMW guy for a long time. Always had the M3 as the attainable, you know, sports car that you could take to the track. I think it's a normal trajectory for BMW guys. They always say once you get a BMW, then you start wanting and wondering where you're going to get your first Porsche. So right. I knew this was the end game. This is where I wanted to end up, was with the 911. And so when it became attainable for me, that's what I went for. As far as the GTS, I mean, admittedly, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, as far as allocations, the GT3 was sort of the dream. Allocations made that difficult. Not having any history with the brand made that difficult. So the GTS felt like a really nice compromise between something I could take to the track and have a lot of fun with within my skill set, because I'm nothing but an amateur driver. But then also daily usability. I mean, being able to take it to the store, having some space to be able to put groceries in it, a Costco run. As you can see with the roof rack, put the mountain bike on the top. Take it to the trails and be able to take the fun things, the little toys with me.
Yeah, and this is very practical, guys. If you don't know, you can pop open both things you can't open. But this has a front trunk. It's worth showing you because, frankly, like he's not kidding. This actually allows you to get groceries.
Yeah.
And you have a back seat.
You can
as well. I mean, I think you got the rear seat delete though, right?
Correct. Rear seat delete. The seats don't fold.
Space back there.
There's space. You have to kind of do a little, Tetris to get it back there. Yeah.
You got to kind of push them forward, and you're not getting a big suitcase back there.
No.
But and the new ones, I think they have folding carbon.
Correct. The GT3s now have a folding carbon option, and you can fit a giant case of paper towels and toilet paper from Costco in behind the rear seats.
Really?
I've confirmed that. Yeah.
No kidding.
So it is a Costco run car. It can be. Just
I guarantee you that's something you haven't heard.
Yeah.
Just real quick, guys. Like you can't see the engine on these. I popped it just for the heck of it, but like that's all you get. So
don't forget you pay extra for the special oil and the coolant caps, because Porsche gives you the option to put things that you can't even see and spend money on it.
So I did not know that. So does this also have the upgraded fuel filler cap?
It does. Yes, it does. So.
Front and right.
Correct. So when you fill up the extended range tank and you watch that thing keep ticking, at least you got a pretty gas cap to look at. So
did I hear that this thing gets like 30 miles a gallon on the highway for just babying it?
If you're in 7th gear and you're judicious with the throttle, you can push 30. I mean, it really is. It's hard to do that because you don't want to, but if you want, if you're so inclined, you can get some MPGs on this thing.
I mean, it's amazing though that with a 23.7 gallon tank, 30 miles a gallon, you got a 600, 700 mile range.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty practical.
It's a road trip car. I mean, that's the thing. You can take it.
Pretty comfortable. All right, so you probably weren't able to get a GT3 allocation, frankly, and if you did, it was so over. Now, did you have to do an ADM on this thing, or was there another game you had to play, or what's the story? So
specifically, obviously, at the time, GT3 allocation is difficult to get, especially without brand history. That's one of the things that I knew going into it was going to be an issue. So for me, I cast a wide net initially. I put my name in on lists from several dealerships in the Southeast region. A lot of those came with, obligations to do European delivery or significant ADMs. In my situation, it was an MSRP deal, but I did have to purchase a Porsche watch, which it wasn't specific to the GTS model, but it was something I was able to configure to match to the specs of the car, stitching and dials, and matching colors across those.
Sure.
But at least that's something tangible to have to wear on your wrist.
Exactly. It's not just an added fee to go straight to the dealership. It's something that you should enjoy, right?
And even at the time, I mean, there were dealerships, because this was a 2022 model, that were pushing 25,000 ADMs on a GTS.
Wow.
Which just, it is and was a crazy time for those things, specifically with Porsches. So I felt good about it. I mean, it was a good deal. It was a local dealership here, so that was nice from a convenience standpoint. Very happy. And at the end of the day, once I got the allocation, then the real fun started, and that's Spec in the car.
Right. So let's talk about the Spec a little bit. So is there anything that you would do differently if you were to spec it again? I mean, maybe we could just kind of talk about the Spec, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't know, guys, the GTS gives you the Turbo S center lock wheels. It lowers it 0.4, comes standard with stock exhaust, although you've gone and done the JCR exhaust.
Correct.
Right? It does not come standard with buckets.
Correct.
Those are upgrades, right? It does not come standard with PDLS headlights, which this car has as well. It does not come standard with this premium package. The color contrast stitching in carmine red, I believe, is an upgrade.
Correct.
Especially like all through here.
Yes, additional.
You got the leather stitched steering wheel, right? You got the matte carbon on the inserts. You got the smoking package. You got the illuminated door sills. I see you didn't do this in stitching here, the leather stitch. So
no, that's a high impact area, I feel like. A lot of people drag the feet across it, and I just didn't see.
Just a few areas you didn't check. You did do the ambient lighting, light design package.
Correct.
I can see there. You did the Burmester sound. You did the Alcantara stitched headliner up there. I think is this an upgrade too? All this in Alcantara? Is that
so on the GTS package, when you do the GTS interior, the Race Tech is standard on the seat centers, the door panels here, and the center console underneath. Okay. As well as the cup holders and things like that. So the only Race Tech additions were, and the steering wheel is Race Tech. Okay. Additions were the headliner, the sun visors, the seat belt outlets, And then some additional leather with the contrast stitch on the doors, and like you pointed out in the door frame there.
You did do the seat belts, didn't you?
Yeah, and even the rear view mirror surround. There's leather with contrast stitch under there. Yeah.
Yes, you did do that.
Yeah, my client advisor Pierre loved when it came time to talk to me about options, because I could go over spend a whole episode on just going over the interior stuff.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything you do differently on the interior here, or is this kind of? I mean, you obviously like the buckets, right?
Right. I mean, the unfortunate thing is you lose the rear seat, which on a GTS, when you do the buckets, you lose the rear seat, which part of the GTS, because obviously the GT3s at the time, the .2s, it's a different story, but at the time you could not get rear seats in a GT3, no matter touring, winged car. Okay. Here, part of the appeal originally with the GTS was having the rear seats. I've got 2 kids.
Sure.
When I checked the bucket box, those went away. I don't regret that. I can only take 1 kid at a time, but they're okay taking turns.
Yeah, and if you don't know much about these carbon bucket seats, I always assume that people that watch my reviews, they don't know anything about these cars, right? So they only have 1 point of adjustment, and that is up and down, and then you can pull this and go forwards and back. Can you push that forward for me, Jeff? There we go. So that's the max amount of room you're going to get if you want to get something back there. But look how much space you do have. So like I said, you can put stuff back.
You can.
And you actually have a child seat back here, like a bolster.
So that hops in the front seat when the kids are with me to make them legal, but it's a nice little way to get them in the car. There is.
You know, again, you don't have a ton of room, but again, if you've got certain size items, you know, if you need the space, it's there, which is nice. But yeah, these seats. Okay, so you know, it's a love-hate relationship with the Porsche buckets. I think anybody would agree. The ingress and egress of getting in and out of these things is very, very difficult. You have to. He has the Crazy Eddie bolsters, which is an upgrade that you'll buy aftermarket, and that helps a lot with not damaging the seat. But basically, when you're in the car, it's pretty comfortable. I mean, I think that you can take a road trip on this car. Did you actually do an extra recline?
I did not. They have the little spacers where you can change the angle. A lot of people feel like these seats are sort of forward leaning when you're in them.
Sure.
If that's something that you find, you can get risers for the front to get a little bit more incline on them.
Yep.
And that seems to help improve for a lot of people the driving position.
Outside of getting in and out of them, though, they're pretty clutch.
I'm telling you, I always tell people when they ask about it, I'm like, find a car with them, sit in them. Yep. If your body type fits them, getting in and out's tough, but once you're in them, they're comfortable. And I've done 3, 4, 5 hour straight drives in this car and gotten out and felt fine. I mean, they really are a game changer from the standpoint of bolstering for the track. But another thing about them is because they're one piece carbon fiber bolted to the car, there is another element as far as connection with the vehicle and feeling a lot of what the car's doing that you can't get with the 4-ways or the 18-ways. Right. It's just not the same.
The 18-ways are wonderful, though. They do take the pressure off the lower back of the hips. So if you have back problems or you're an older person, get the 18-ways. You're going to love them. They're heated, they're cool, they're great. You can actually get a heated steering wheel with this. Did you opt for that option?
Yes. And so actually the steering wheel itself is an optional version of the GTS wheel because it adds the matte carbon fiber to match the trim. And when you do that, you do get the heated function. So the wheel is heated, but obviously with the buckets, you can't get them heated or ventilated. So that is another negative of those if that's something that's important to you.
Got it.
With the seats.
Now you do get the carbon roof. So
yes.
Moving to the exterior, you got the carbon roof here, which is nice. You can get a sunroof, or you can just get it painted, I believe, or you can even get it in black. I think those are the 3 options.
There's a solid roof, there's a glass roof, as well as a painted sunroof version, and there were the carbon. So there's actually 4 options for the roof itself.
That's cool.
And then I did obviously spec for the roof transport, preparation for roof transport, which allows you to put the roof rails on, and then from this you can put bike racks, you can put a ski or a snowboard rack, you can put a luggage rack, and then if you really want to get crazy, Porsche even offers a factory tent option with a rooftop mounted tent so you can spend the night on top of your 911 if you so choose.
Well, that is interesting. I don't know if anybody's going to do that. I think the max weight on the roof is like 380 pounds, right?
Yeah,
so
I
you
think.
And your wife aren't going to make
Yeah,
it.
that may be a one-man job.
This also has the Turbo S brakes, if you guys don't know. It also has a few other trickle-down parts from the Turbo S. I believe it's like the engine mounts come from the Turbo S, I heard.
And so the rear helper springs is something off the Turbo models. The wheels, interesting thing about the wheels, they're the Turbo center locks, but they're actually 5 millimeters narrower than the Turbo. So whereas the Turbo, the center locks on the Turbo are going to be a 255, 315. These are 245, 305.
Correct.
So it's a narrower version, but you do get the center locks, you do get the bigger steel brakes from the Turbo.
And it came with Pirelli P0s, right?
Well, there's three, at the time there's three options. You could get the Pirellis, there's a Goodyear option, which is what mine came with factory, and then towards the end and more recently the new 4S's. So it was sort of a roll of the dice which one you got. Your options are the matte center locks. You can get gloss black if you spec the gloss aero kit package. It does gloss the wheels over matte, and then you can select a standard 5 lug. I believe the Spider RS, and there's one other wheel option if you don't want the added potential headache of the center locks. It is definitely a different game for, you know, tire changes in the garage or roadside assistance. You do have to take that into account, but
no, 100%. These things are, you know, you need like a 6-foot breaker bar, I've heard, to get these off, right?
And and they go up to
special bit.
It's over 400. Yes, and so actually we can show that there's a little section up here
so
where
that's good to give you that at least.
It comes right out here, and there's the special center lock tool, so that once you have that, this attaches to, disengages the lock and allows you to hook up your, I believe it's a 1-inch breaker bar, and then you need a special torque wrench because these take more than 100 foot-pounds, and so that's another thing to think about if you're doing, you know, wheel tire changes in your garage, working on the car. You're going to have some equipment to be able to do that, and
leave it to the professional.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is also a couple of things we'll talk about on the front here. They still have like the front lights up here, but they don't have the double lights like the last generation has. These are also the PDLS headlights. You can kind of see at night. They give it this really cool look. It's kind of like 4 different lines around your center light, and these adjust, I think, based on your turning radius, correct?
Correct. They are adaptive for turning.
They look great. I mean, I just love this design. They're so cool. And then also to note is you've got this to charge your battery, and you were saying you've had a lot of issues, or I think a lot of owners with these lithium-ion batteries. Why don't you tell folks about that?
So I know previously any car that was spec'd with rear wheel steering required a lithium battery be fitted to the vehicle. It is a lightweight battery, but it is a little more finicky, and it's proved to be an issue to some owners with battery drain, especially on cars that aren't driven all the time. And so a lot of the forums recommend, if it's not a daily driver, if you're taking it out just on the weekends, or it's going to sit for any prolonged period of time, put it on an appropriate lithium battery charger. I use the C-Tech, which is actually the same company that makes the Porsche branded one. And so if I'm going to be away from this thing for a couple days, it gets hooked up to the tender, because to me, a lithium battery is $2+ grand to get replaced.
Is it really?
It's
$2 grand for
it
a
is.
battery replacement.
Yep.
And you had to do that, didn't you?
I didn't on this one, luckily, but I had a friend who's gone through 2 of them on a 992 3RS.
Wow.
So you don't really want to mess around with it. Silver is classic. GT Silver is a classic Porsche color, especially with the GTS, because the GTS brings a lot of matte black accented features to the car, black badges, black wheels, black trim. And so I think you had some good contrast there with the GT Silver. And like I said, it just, I knew I was never going to regret it, even though sometimes I think maybe a little more flare would have been nice. But
yeah, like a Carmine Red, I think it was the one color that you would have considered.
Yes, that was a close second.
Yeah, and I love Carmine Red. Now this has the surround sound camera, is that right?
Correct. So it does have surround view, which was an option to add the parking sensors all the way around, as well as the full 360 camera, which is helpful. I mean, tight parking spaces, trying to sneak right up next to the curb so you don't get a door ding. It helps to be able to see around the car like that.
And you know, I do love the look of the rear end, guys. You've got the double quad exhaust that comes with the sport exhaust package. Now, these are the JCR exhausts. So you said this exhaust was around $4,000. You were able to install it yourself. Did not require the removal of the rear bumper you mentioned, right?
Yeah, you can sneak it in there if you do it just right. It's factory cat, so those weren't removed. It's just the center section silent or non-silenced, non-valved. It was, you know, you can, like I said, you can do it without removing the bumper, although it is easier if you do, so depending on how handy you are. Another thing about the exhaust that was a sort of a last minute addition was the standard GTS comes with a gloss black exhaust surround. These are the actual exclusive design exhaust, which is an aluminum outer shell with an inner, it's almost like a rough black, almost like a Linex or a Rhino liner type material to it. I liked it because I thought it broke up the rear black bumper a little bit. One thing on the GTS, when you do the aero kit that you would get on an S but not on a GTS, is these little fins here are body colored on an S with the aero kit. On a GTS, they keep them matte black like that. So I just thought there was a nice contrast to have a little bit of that aluminum to accentuate the exhaust and tie it into the GT Silver a little bit too.
It's a great looking rear end. I mean, no doubt about it. She's got a fat ass. I mean, that line at night, even just sitting there, I mean, it's still got that classic.
Yeah, the Cyclops rear tail light is a pretty cool look at night when you're behind it.
It's pretty darn. The car, guys, like, you know, there's no doubt about it. That's a sexy looking car. It doesn't have a bad angle on it.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. From the side, from the top, from the front, from the rear. It looks good everywhere. You got 3,400 pound cars at Sitch. You can do a light package, which I think can save up to 100 pounds if you get the PCCB brakes and you get the manual and you don't get the extended range tank and they do the rear seat delete in the buckets. Like, you can get it down to 3,300 pounds, but to be honest with you, like,
no.
It's got so much performance.
Right.
You're not really going to feel the 100 pounds. I want to jump in the car because I want to go over a couple of the things that I just love about the interior. So let's one of the things that's cool is it's a Bluetooth, you know, enabled car, but everything still requires you to physically turn this key here on the left. So you would put your foot on the brake and then crank it over here. Don't have to insert the key though, like the previous generations, which is nice. And guys, everything about this car is just so quality. Every single button has this amazing, like, tactile sensation to it. It's wonderful. Every touch point. Now, the one negative is the electric shaver here, okay? And the reason why it's a negative is you used to be able to shift up and down, right, with the center gear selector, and now the only way you can interact with the car is with your paddles here. So to me, that is definitely what we would call a zonk. But in the end of the day, every other thing here is so well laid out, so well designed, so high quality, and it's a big step up from the previous generation as just far as overall, you know, creature comforts, technology, layout. It's very, very modern. You have double screens here versus having multiple analog gauges. You still have the center one here, which I think they got rid of in the new generation, didn't they?
Correct, full digital.
It's all screens now. So that's something to be mindful of if you're looking for collectability in these. It's nice to have that old school with the new school. You do have Apple CarPlay, you have Bluetooth, you have all that good stuff here. You have all these extra screens. Is there anything here that you're using really with this technology on a daily basis, or is it just Apple CarPlay?
Honestly, in this it's CarPlay. I mean, the thing is, it's everything you need from that. And one thing that's interesting about the gauges, and I know this was one of the complaints, and part of the reason why they moved to a full digital display is that if you hit back on the wheel there, you'll notice that what it'll do is it'll go to the full 5-gauge display. Well, obviously, and I don't know if you can catch that on camera, but you can't see the outer two rings.
Well, because you got the wheel here.
Right.
Yeah, like that's your view, right? So you're cutting yourself off here and there.
Correct. And so what we had it in was a reduced view, which allows you to sort of bring everything in the middle that you can see.
That's cool.
And that's what we had it in earlier. And so you can see, you sort of eliminate the end, but part of the reason they talked about going to full digital is they are now able to control that display and put everything within the viewing. So there is some positives to that, but I'm with you. I think the analog,
gauges. That's why I love the Vanquish over there, because it has like the watch gauges. You know?
Right.
And now this does have adaptive cruise, or is that not a package that you expect?
It does not have adaptive, it's just your standard cruise control.
Because that actually has like this thing up front. It's
Correct.
Ugly.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. So, but it does have cruise control.
Correct.
So it's like the old school cruise control. And do you like the Burmester sound? I mean, do you feel like it's a quality sound system?
You know, a lot of people say that any car like this, sports car, that sounds hard to get right because you're dealing with engine noise and things like that. From my back-to-back experience, the Burmester is a worthwhile upgrade, especially if you're listening to a lot of music and if you're an audiophile kind of guy.
Yeah.
There is an upgrade. There is a noticeable difference in bass response and treble and being able to handle that, especially at higher volume. So.
Well, you put 12,000 miles on the car, so I'm assuming you use it.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
The Burmeister gets a workout for sure.
I mean, when you're on your track, you're gonna turn it off. But at the end of the day, like, I love music, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially on a sports car. Well, overall, man, I mean, just it's expensive, but from the interior point of view, it feels so quality. I mean, it's just like comparing this to like anything else. It's just the best.
Right.
You know.
I agree.
Yeah, there's other cars where you have physical push buttons, but that guys, just that little detail. Yeah. I can't tell you, like, this, right? The way it feels, every button has this wonderful click and tactility to it. And all the graphics are, very modern, and everything just feels so good. The steering wheel feels so good. It doesn't rattle. I said that on the point of view drive, right? It doesn't rattle at all, even when you're going for it, even on bumpy roads. Just everything is so glued together and put together so well. I don't know how they do it.
It's buttoned up.
It's buttoned up. Better than any other brand out there. So there's no negatives of the interior, and I really like that we have a little extra room here.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't feel claustrophobic. Look how much headroom you have. And so if you're going to be on the track, this is such a capable car on the track because, you know, you've got room.
Oh yeah.
You know,
you put a helmet on and you can maintain the driving position. You're not having to worry about, you know, clearance and things like that.
Yep. And you know, I will lower the seat here. I think I've got it up just so you can see how low you can actually sit in this car. I mean, you could have this thing literally on the floor of the car. I mean, look how low I am. So
Chris Harris would approve of that driving
That's
position.
my eyesight. So, you know, you really do. I mean, look how low you sit with the door shut. I mean, it just, yeah, you feel like, let's go. Can you change this color? How many different colors? Or is this
There's
red?
several, actually. We can go through to that. It's within the ambient light settings, and I'm going to probably not find it here because you're putting me on the spot.
You,
but
you going through the menus is always interesting for people to see, right?
So you have some of the options as far as
really
different settings within the vehicle.
Let's see how difficult it is to change your lights.
Yeah, it shows you how many times I've done it. I think we're going to get
All right. 2 hours later. No, here we go. So you go to comfort. So again, here's how you change the light. This is hilarious. It's a little overcomplicated, guys. So if you're looking for old school, just get a 997 and everything's a button, okay? But you go to comfort, and then that's how you change on. So you have poppy red, and then you can see here, you get a couple of other options here. Cold, you get some blue options, you get green. That's kind of cool. So we'll just see what green looks like here.
That's a dynamic.
Did it turn on?
Yeah, there we go. There's the lemon green.
There's the green. So again, I like that. That's really cool. If you have a green car or you have a green accent somewhere, you know, you can turn that on. I would still go with red if I were you because it does match your spec really well. And then overall brightness, we adjust it on the other screen. That's cool. You can set it exactly what you want for multiple areas of the car. I love that. So footwell, you've only got it at 50. So
let's go 100 there. Yeah, there you
go.
got
red shoes. Look at that.
Yeah.
Cool. That looks kind of demonic.
Yep.
How fun. You can even set it on the rear.
So the people who aren't sitting back there.
There's the red light. That's cool, guys. So anyway, it's got, you know, the technology has some fun little features and, you know, kind of work on dialing it in your car. That's really cool. All right, guys, this is the GTS 992.1 with a JCR exhaust. So let's go for a drive. I have never driven this car before. This is my very first experience driving it. I got Jeff mic'd up with me, so he might add some color to some thoughts that we'll share. Now we're in the neighborhood here. We're just gonna take it easy. I think it's always fun to see what these cars are like just from basic, simple, you know, round town driving. This has the PDK, 7-speed, arguably the best transmission in the game. I say it on every review that I do on a Porsche, but the PDK is so good. Now this car, you could have actually spec'd a manual, which is interesting. I mean, they didn't have the manual option for a bit, but this one you could get a manual. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about maybe why you went PDK versus manual?
Yeah, I think for me, I was definitely torn from the beginning about the transmission choice. The biggest deciding factor for me was track use. I think it was just the fact that I knew that I'd be tracking the car. The PDK on the track is unbeatable, and I wanted to be able to focus on my driving abilities and making them and getting my skill set better, and not dealing with the transmission and letting the PDK do the work. So, had I not had aspirations to take it to the track, I think I would have gone manual. But I don't regret for that from that point of it. But a manual would be a lot more fun on these back roads.
Yeah.
I think about that every time.
I think when you drive it on the street, you'd want the manual, but like you said, the Track J. And look, if you guys want performance, the 3.1 to 60 is only capable in the PDK configuration. You know, the manual goes quite a bit more. It's almost 4 seconds at that point. So, you know, the reality is the engine and the PDK were designed together, okay? And they've put all the technology, I think, into PDK and a lot less into the manual. While you do get the auto blip, it's not the best shifting manual transmission in the game. It's not. I say that on all my reviews. It's a little bit of a long throw. Sometimes it doesn't slot as well as I'd like it to. Other than that, though, I do like the manuals. They are great. But if you're going to track the car, guys, get the PDK. It's going to unlock the full capability of the 3-liter twin turbo. Now you do see there that auto stop kicked in.
So we can go into sport mode, or we can deactivate.
Does that delete? Okay, so if you go to sport mode, it shuts that off?
Automatically turns off.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so now that we're out of the neighborhood here, it's probably a good idea to go into sport mode. Now there is Sport Plus on this car, which actually comes, I believe, standard with the GTS, and that allows the car to basically go all the way to revline, and that's the mode you're going to want to put it in when you're tracking the car. You can do the paddle shifting on the track, but really Sport Plus, guys, is going to shift the car probably a lot harder and more aggressive than even you would choose to. It's pretty incredible technology. It's amazing how much faster the 992.1 generation is compared to the 991.1 generation, right? Because they got rid of the 3.8 liter, and because this has so much torque, 420 foot-pounds at 2,300 RPMs, which, by the way, guys, you're almost always at 2,000 RPMs on this car. It doesn't really go any lower than that unless you're just, you know, 7th gear on the highway. So you got torque everywhere, and even on a half throttle like that, the actual back end felt like it was kicking out just a smidge. So, you know, cup tires, right? They're gonna need a warm-up cycle a little bit, but still very impressive just from hello of how much torque this car has. You're not gonna be lacking in power anywhere with this thing, that's for sure.
And so only under certain circumstances are you ever gonna get full valves open on the sport exhaust. This allows you to hear it fully open all the time.
Wow. It sounds great. Wow.
Yeah, you definitely, like I said, you get up above 4
Sounds
or 5.
really good, bro.
If you close your eyes, you might think for a second you're in a GT3.
Oh, I mean, 100%.
So something else now as we're on the little curvy part. So PDCC, this car is equipped with.
Okay.
One of the misconceptions about that sometimes is the button on the dash here doesn't toggle PDCC, it toggles the PDCC mode. So PDCC is always on in a PDCC car. Which means that the activated roll bars are always working. Toggling this on puts it into a sport mode version of the suspension. So right now you're getting the benefits of PDCC, but sort of a tuned down version of it.
Sure.
If you want, we can go ahead and
turn it on.
And so now you're going to get a full sport chassis, which is going to tighten it up a little more.
You know what? You immediately feel it, don't you?
Yeah.
Just a little bit more, like a little jarring.
You get a little more feedback from the road, a little bit flatter in the curves because it's tightening those roll bars up even more.
Oh, I felt the rear steer there.
Yeah, it is.
You're right about that kind of artificial feeling, though. Like, it does feel like you're actually kind of kicking out a little bit, and then it bites.
Yep.
That takes some getting used to. Jesus. This car's got a lot of power, bro.
It does.
Wow. How much did that exhaust unlock? Because it feels all of 500.
Well, you know, it's a little underrated from the factory.
Is it?
Anyway, the dynos on these stock looks like it pushes closer to probably 500 at the crank as opposed to the 460 here.
Dude,
So
the torque, guys, it's everywhere. It feels so good.
Why you need a tune?
Why do you need anything other than this? I mean, Jesus, how much power do you need? That is insane. I mean, guys, I'm not even halfway up the rev band. I mean, you know, you just don't need to rev it out because you have so much power, you know? Oh, man. You've transformed this car with this exhaust. Like, I don't think you had this exhaust last time I was in it, right?
I don't believe so.
It's completely different. I mean, it really sounds good. Jeez.
Obviously, there's shifts with the PDK, downshifts, upshifts.
Oh, yeah.
With the exhaust. I mean,
The only thing I miss, guys, is they have the electric shaver here, and you don't have the option to shift with your right hand. So you only have the steering, you know, mounted paddles. Jeez. I mean, it's so fast, guys. The only way you're going to be able to exploit this car is on the track. I'm sorry, you're not going to get even 810 out of this car on the street unless you're just a complete lunatic. You're an a-hole, right? You're risking your life, you're risking other people's lives. It's not worth it. So if you buy a GTS, to really, you know, enjoy the car at its limits, take it to the track. If you're local to the Nashville area, reach out to me. I'll get you involved in one of our track days next season. You know, we've got a great group of guys. Jeff actually is how we met. You know, he had an M3 CS that he was tracking, or was it M4 CS? M3 CS. So, you know, turning around, guys, with the rear steering and just generally manipulating the car it feels like a very small car. And parking lots and, you know, anything like that, I mean, the rear steering is truly a game changer. It makes maneuvering around this car feel like the older generations, frankly, that were a lot smaller. You know, it's a big car. Like, we have room in here, which, you know, some people are on the fence that the new 992s are too big and the 997 was peak Porsche, and then other people are like, well, I don't feel like touching my passenger, and so having the room is nice. And I'm personally of the opinion that you know, it's dealer choice, right? It's like either way, you get a 997 or a 964, 930, whatever. Those are great time in, you know, in the history of Porsche, and these are great, and they have their own benefits. And I don't mind the larger cockpit. I feel like I'm a big guy, right? I'm a big American dude, and this is perfect. This perfect size, you know. And with the rear steering and whatnot and all the performance, like, it doesn't feel like a 3,400 pound car. I mean, this is a pretty heavy car, but it moves, you know, it moves really well. So, well, guys, you know, what else can I say about the driving experience of this car? It is truly voodoo what Porsche does. You know, they have a great way of engineering such a quality product. And you know, when I've reviewed McLarens and I review Ferraris and I review Astons and Teslas and all these other manufacturers, they all rattle a little bit. You know, there's always something in the heat shielding in the back or something on the interior of the door or something that rattles. At 12,000 miles, this thing is really well built. And there are absolutely no, like, sensation or feeling in any area you interact with on the car of anything that's just not quality. From the way the buttons click to the way the steering feels. I mean, even though it's electric, it's so good. It's so laser, and it changes with the modes and the weight and the feeling of it all. Everything feels so over-engineered, from the brakes to the engine to the transmission, you know. I don't know how they do it. And, you know, we were just talking about this. It's a $190,000 car now. So, you know, gone are the days of a 911 being the everyman sports car, because I don't know who you are out there, but $190,000 for a car that usually depreciates is a lot of money, right? Now, these are a little bit of a cheat code. They're the least appreciating car you can buy. I think it's like a 93% resale value after the first couple of years, which unbelievable, right? You buy a Maserati or you buy pretty much an Aston or any other of these brands, and, you know, you're lucky to get 70% of your money after a couple of years and a few thousand miles. But this car, guys, from build quality, the driving experience, the feeling it gives you, you know, it's worth the money. And that is ultimately why I think there's such a demand. There's such a premium for these cars. It's why they still demand ADM fees, and, you know, they want to buy the watch and they want to buy the European delivery, and, you know, they want you to buy the Macan or a Taycan, right? So that they can kind of juice up their lesser models, right? So that they give you the allocation for one of these, you know, but they're so good. I mean, I can't believe that Jeff gets to enjoy this car on the daily. Like, you know, it makes me want to buy this car because of how good it is on the drive. And I don't know if you would really need anything more than the GTS. And I'm not going to be the reviewer that's like, oh, it's the sweet spot, it's the sweet spot. But the true fact is, like, how much performance do you need on the street? I mean, really, this thing is so spicy, guys. You saw the launch. I mean, 0 to 120 miles an hour, and you get there quick. I mean, officially, the car does 11.3 in the quarter mile at 126 miles an hour. So that's a really fast car, but I just don't think you would need anything else. Now, the caveat is, if you want to go on the street or you have a lot of inclement weather, I might recommend the 4 GTS. If you like the Targa, that's cool too. But if you are going to track the car a lot, you know, you probably would be better to get the GT3 from that ultimate 9K Redline engine. But if, like Jeff, he does track the car, and the reality is you get great street performance, but you also get a lot of, you know, track performance too. You don't get the double wishbone suspension, you don't get everything the GT3 gives you, but you're also getting a car that's $100,000 less, because those GT3s are still demanding 250, 280 based on spec. So in the end of the day, guys, this is a lot of car for the money. It's amazing for me to say that because it's $190,000, but it's still a lot of car for the money, you know? And I really like what they did with the new refresh 992 interior. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but just everything feels really quality in here, guys. And with that exhaust and the way the engine sounds, like, you would never be able to tell me that's a 3-liter. It sounds like a 4-liter back there. It just screams and it feels good. And so it's just a lot of car here. So I don't have any negatives from the driving experience. You know, would I recommend you get the PCCB brakes? You know, if you want to spend the extra money. The problem is, if you're going to track those carbon ceramic brakes, you know, if you need to replace a set, they're going to cost you 20,000 bucks. You know, these, you could put track pads on them, and if you have to change them out, they're $5,000. So they're 75% less, you know, and obviously you do track, Jeff, right? So, you know, that's probably one of the reasons. Now, yeah, you're going to get some brake dust and some things that the PCCBs aren't going to necessarily give you, but these are plenty capable brakes because of the turbo brakes. And so they're a little bit bigger, they're a little larger millimeter brakes. I will tell you, you know, if you go to hit the brakes and you just give them a little bit, they're not bitey like the PCCBs are. PCCB brakes, you can just tap that pedal, and if you're not careful, it'll actually throw you into your seatbelt. They're very, very bitey. But once you do push them real good, I mean, these are very capable brakes. You know, when we were at Polecat, I mean, we were smashing the brakes, and this car was absolutely biting. So there's no negatives on the driving, guys. The PDK is amazing. The sound of the engine, especially with that exhaust, the feeling of it's amazing. The brakes are great. The build quality's great. The steering's great. I still like you have the analog gauges. You know, the new one, right? It's all a big screen. I'm not a fan of that. This is the perfect amount of technology for me, and I also thought the 991 was the perfect amount of technology, you know, with the triple gauges, and you still had one screen here. Now you have two screens, but in the end of the day, just a great place to spend time, you know. And I'm in the buckets, I'm not uncomfortable. Yes, getting in and out of them is a pain in the ass, so be mindful of that. If you are going to drive this on the daily, I would recommend the 18-way seats, but if you're going to track it, just get the buckets. You know, if you have any inclination of doing a handful of track days a year, get the carbon buckets. You're not going to regret it. It makes you feel so much more planted in the car and makes you have a little bit more confidence to push it on the street and, of course, on the track. Man, I tell you, Jeff, anything else you'd add on the driving experience from your point of view?
No, I think you've hit all the high points and the reason why I've enjoyed having this car so much. I mean,
yeah,
like you said,
you're blessed.
You know, and
man, that exhaust, dude, I am in love with that exhaust.
It's a game changer. It's, you know.
I mean, the torque, guys, it's just got it everywhere. So yes, I got double thumbs up for this bad boy, and double thumbs up for JCR exhaust.
Jeff, why don't you talk just a little bit before we wrap up on the track experience, because you've actually done that with this car, and you had mentioned something about like the rear steering and just kind of how that impacted your experience.
Yeah, so I had done a lot of track days previously with an M3, so front engine, rear wheel drive. Coming over to the 911 platform, obviously you're dealing with a different dynamic with the rear engine. You've got a lot more weight in the rear, so you know a lot of people have explained how that feels and how that changes the dynamic on the track. But one thing for me that I hadn't experienced in addition to that was rear wheel steer and the way you're adjusting essentially the turning radius dynamically on the fly. And so first handful of track days I did with this, one thing I noticed and at the time wasn't realizing is especially on slow speed, tight turns, as those rear wheels angle to shorten that turning radius and essentially shrink the wheelbase of the car, the sensation, if you're not used to it, is you feel almost like the rear end of the car is sort of sliding out. You're losing it a little bit because you feel this extra little bit of rotation and turn in. And your brain's telling you it's because the rear's, you know, coming around a little bit. But what's actually happening is the car's doing that for you. Is it's trying to get you around and rotate into that turn, and it's not a loss of control by you or as the driver or the car, it's the car assisting you. So that's something that I had to get used to.
And that causes you to then counter steer a little bit and or slow down?
Yeah, your instinct is that I'm going too fast through this corner, so I need to bleed off a little bit of throttle, or like you said, counter steer to hopefully prevent a true oversteer situation.
Sure.
But dynamically it's the car, and it's really something that, and that's that along with the PDCC, which this car is optioned with. There's a debate because a lot of guys don't like those things. It feels unnatural. They want to feel the rear do what it's going to do every time predictably without any assistance. They want to feel the body roll in the car, so they don't like the PDCC. But of course, you know, back to back with a competent driver,
Again,
the times might be faster.
I'm a golden retriever. Explain what that is for folks.
For the
Like
PDCC?
that upgrade. How much was it, and what is it supposed to do?
So PDCC is basically an active anti-roll bar system. So instead of a fixed anti-roll bar, which most cars have, there's an electronic system that actually can adjust that on the fly. And so what that's doing is it's actually giving you different types of anti-roll bar behavior depending on the driving conditions and what the car's set at.
Got it.
So it's always on this car. That's one thing. There's a little button. I'm sure in your interior video we saw there's a button where you can toggle that. That's not technically toggling PDC on and off. It's toggling the setting for that. PDCC is always on. The button activates the sport chassis mode. And so what that means is you're always getting the benefits of it, or negatives if it's something you don't like, but you can tighten it up a little bit more. It kind of gives the car a little more dual purpose. It actually makes it a little more compliant on regular roads over bumpy roads, but gives you the option on the track. I always hit that button because that's going to tighten the suspension up, reduce body roll. That's the biggest thing. It's very, very flat. And then obviously rear wheel, I mean, the video we have where I'm going in a circle and that thing is like spinning and, you know, on a single point in the middle, it's crazy.
Yeah, the rear steering on this car, guys, it's already a small car, but I mean, the turning radius is unbelievable.
Because I know the rear wheel was part of that in and of itself, and that was part of getting the lithium battery as well. That's an option. The PDCC, I believe at the time with this one was about $2,500 or something like that. So it's not a inexpensive option, and like I said, it really comes down to personal preference. I mean, a competent driver back-to-back might set a lap time slightly faster in a PDCC car, but it's all based on the preference of how you want your car to respond to you. If you like getting all the feedback of the natural dynamic of a car, you might not want PDCC. But if you like the feeling of it being flat, you like the fact that it can be a little dual-natured because of that, then it might be something you might be interested in.
I want to thank you so much for watching. I want to sincerely thank Jeff for allowing me to experience the car, allowing us to experience the car. You know, I shoot everything point of view. I don't blur the speed. You know, I try to take us out into very, very safe and controlled environments so we don't have to worry too much. Guys, this is such a great piece of kit. I mean, I honestly, if you're watching this video, I want this car. I'm telling you, I want this car. With that JCR exhaust, the shifting, the feeling of it, the way it's so well built and so well engineered. I mean, it just checks the boxes, guys. I mean, when we launched this thing, my heart was racing, you know? I was not expecting that from a GTS. And the funny part is, you know, Jeff was just, when he showed up, he's like, man, you just gotta have a GT3. It's like, true. I just drove a 992 GT3 in shark blue, right, with a PDK transmission, and I will tell you, I'd rather have this car. This car actually felt way faster on the street. And because it has so much torque and low-end grunt, you know, the GT3, I only got to redline the damn thing twice, and it was only on the highway, because every time I would try to get on it, I ended up running into some car, right? And so it was kind of not that fun. And because it was a stock exhaust, it wasn't nearly as loud and crazy as that JCR exhaust. Outside of that, guys, I hope you found this helpful. You learned something. You know, I mean, there's so many different things. If you have questions, leave them below. You know, hopefully this review will get picked up. I'll have Jeff monitor the questions. If you're on the fence about buying one of these, you know, hopefully this helped you, right? I mean, there's so many things you can get with Porsche, right? You can get the GT3, you can get the GT3 RS, right? You can get the Targa, you can get the Targa 4, you can get the Targa 4 GTS, you can get the GTS, you can get the S, you can get the Carrera. Now you get the T hybrid. Oh, you can get the T. It's like, what the, I mean, I was on the configurator today. I'm a car guy. I've been on there a dozen times and I'm still going, what the hell am I doing? I mean, you know, you check one box, you check another box, something disappears, this window pops up saying, are you sure you want to do that? You know, it's going to delete these 3 things. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. You know, back. I ended up hitting a couple of wheel combinations and it broke the configurator. I had to reset everything. I'm like, oh boy. You know, it's not easy, right? And then you start dealing with the Porsche sales rep. So hopefully this helps. I love what Jeff did. I think that this, for me, you know, I mean, gosh, it has all the upgrades on the interior I would ever want, and then it has all the exterior upgrades with the aero kit. Nothing over the top, nothing ostentatious. This is going to be resale all day. So I really hope you guys watched and enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a comment, leave a like. That's it for me. Appreciate you watching. We will see you around the channel. Talk to you later.